Remember how Democrats spent a lot of time saying that there's violent political rhetoric on both sides? Everybody's guilty of this sort of thing. We condemn political violent rhetoric on all sides. Meanwhile, it's conservatives who end up getting assassinated. It's conservatives who end up getting attempted assassinations on their lives. It's law enforcement officers who are brutalized by the Antifa types, right? I mean, it all seems to be coming from one direction. But your legacy media types, they'll wring their hands and they'll say, oh, yes, well, everybody's guilty. Everybody's guilty. Everybody's got to stop this. After all, President Trump tweets out memes and GIFs and stuff. That's bad. All right. Well, we found maybe you'll detect this very, very subtle rhetoric coming from a Democrat on CNN last night that, again, it's subtle. Maybe you'll miss it. But a trained eye can note something that could be interpreted as violent rhetoric.
No, it absolutely doesn't work. I'm from the hood, okay? So when a bully comes, like, if there are no rules, you literally have to figure it out. So Donald Trump has changed things, and people trying to do what's always been done is not going to work. And I think that's why Democrats are losing black people. That's why they're losing poor people, because poor people, all they want is for us to fight. So if you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck, because we can go back and forth fighting in each other's faces. You've got to hit hard enough where they won't come back. And so, yeah, for the same way I went to New York and spoke with Governor Kathy Hochul and said, if they're going to try to wipe us out in Texas, we need to wipe out every Republican in New York, in California, in Illinois.
Okay, so the topic was redistricting. And the solution was, I'm going to come across your neck. I appreciate the slashing gesture across your throat to explain exactly what we're talking about here. We're going to go full OJ on you. I want you to watch that moment again, because it's really important to see how the very responsible, professional teleprompt reader, journalist at CNN, Erin Burnett, watch how she reacts when a Democrat elected official calls for slitting the throats, metaphorically speaking, of course, of Republicans. Watch Erin Burnett here.
And people trying to do what's always been done is not going to work. And I think that's why Democrats are losing black people. That's why they're losing poor people, because poor people, all they want is for us to fight. So if you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck, because we can go back and forth.
Did she even blink? Did she even blink? No reaction? No. We don't like that kind of talk here. I'm going to interrupt you right there. Abby Phillip interrupts a Republican if a Republican makes a solid, logical point. Erin Burnett lets the wackadoodle Democrat from Texas talk about slitting the throats of Republicans. In fact, watch her a little bit further into it. As it registers exactly what just happened, you're going to get a smile of confident agreement on this. Watch Erin Burnett carefully here.
Fighting in each other's faces. You've got to hit hard enough where they won't come back. And so, yeah, for the same way I went.
There it is. You got to hit them hard enough so they don't come back. And Erin Burnett's response is, I like you. I admire you. You have tenacity. That's what the Democrats are doing right now, and they're not alone. J.B. Pritzker, is he on Ozempic? I think he's lost weight. He's trim. He's down to like 350 now. J.B. Pritzker, Economic Club of Chicago, what do you have to say?
This is what happened. This is what happened. People's rights started getting taken away. People got accused of being immigrants. This is before the Holocaust really took place. People were accused of being immigrants, and then laws were passed to limit immigrants, and then people who weren't actually immigrants were called immigrants, and then it was othering people, and that led to a lot worse things. What I'm saying is that this is how authoritarian regimes do it. They create these kind of fake ideas that there's an enemy out there and it could be sitting next to you at one of these tables. And so just somebody at your table that you don't like might be one of those enemies. And so let's Round them up. Let's make sure that they are the subject of the laws that we're passing because we don't like who they are. That is what authoritarian regimes do.
Wow. I don't know. Again, I've got a trained eye here. I don't know if you saw it, but it almost seemed like Jabba Pritzker there was comparing the Trump administration and Republicans to Nazis and authoritarian regimes. He specifically said, Germany before the Holocaust, this is how they took power. In other words, we let this go and we'll have Hitler running our country and soon they'll be engaging in a Holocaust. I got to tell you, this is a game changer, guys. Now that they're calling Trump and Republicans Nazis, I mean, now they're really going to hurt us politically because I don't know why they didn't start doing this 10, 15, 20 years ago. Oh, no, that's right. That's all they do. It's all they have done. It still doesn't work, though. But there he is. And again, just understand the dog whistle involved here because you're not a Nazi, right? And so what's the best thing to do if you're confronted with a Nazi? If Nazis are taking over your government, what should you do about it? Well, you should revolt. You should take up arms. You should fight back. Right? And that's what they're saying. That's what they mean. That's why they call you a Nazi. Because if they call you a Nazi, it dehumanizes you. Nazis aren't human. Nazis are evil. Nazis are vile. Nazis deserve to be stopped at any means necessary. This isn't an accident when they use language like this. They're doing it for a reason. And the fact that there's never any pushback on it from any of the people who are hosting these little television shows or these little BS sessions at the Economic Club of Chicago. All right, let's turn to my favorite podcast now. It's Jurassic on the Air. That would be Al Hunt on the right, liberal Democrat who used to call himself a journalist until he lost his job, and now he's just out of the closet, like Jim Acosta, like Joy Reid, like Terry Moran, like all of them. And then you got James Carville over there, and let's see what they have to say about Republicans. They're always very generous and giving the benefit of grace and doubt to their political opponents, right?
You know what we do with collaborators,
right?
And my fantasy dream is that this nightmare ends in 2029. And I think we ought to have radical thing. I think they all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on them. All of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on. It's a moral judgment.
Yeah.
If you bend the knee to a criminal tyrant, and that's what he is. Understand, he is a criminal. 34 convictions would have been a lot more, okay, if they would have pursued it. He is a tyrant. He has no use for democracy. He has no use for the values of his country. And you are collaborating with this, and it will bring eternal shame to your company.
Wow. You're collaborating. Now you're collaborators. These are all buzzwords, right? This all goes back to Nazi regime, fascist regimes. That whole shave your head, put them in orange pajamas, and publicly shame them. That, to be fair, is not Nazis and fascism or anything. No. That's the political left's buddies over there in the Cultural Revolution in Mao Zedong's China. Oh, yeah, and I do mean they're buddies because James Carville's old pals there, like Anita Dunn and other people who worked in the Obama White House, they love themselves some Mao. So they're perfectly on board with that. The tactics of the Cultural Revolution and the communist authoritarians in Red China are 100% adopted by the political cultural left in America. Mao Zedong invented cancel culture. And there they are fantasizing about their fever dream there, about what they get to do in 2029. Of course, it takes you to keep that from happening because they're not joking. We've seen this movie before. We know what it was like during the Biden administration, where they did censor you and deplatform you and demonetize you and debank you and fire you if you didn't inject garbage into your veins that they made you inject. We know how this movie goes, and don't think for a second that they won't triple down the next time they have the reins of power. They're telling you right now. I'm pleased to tell you, though, that the Democrats actually do have a couple of outliers. The voice of reason, the only sane man in the room when it comes to the Democrats in Washington, D.C., ironically, is the guy who probably has a bit of brain damage. John Fetterman had a stroke during his campaign for the Senate back in 2022, and once he got into the Senate, suffered from what was deemed some kind of nervous breakdown and had to be hospitalized. But he emerged from all of that with some level of rationality and a moral compass. Here's Fetterman criticizing his own.
I don't know why, and I've always refused to say that. And when then the Vice President Harris referred to President Trump as a fascist, and I knew absolutely we lost the plot at that point. You know, if you call the president or someone like a fascist, you're effectively calling the people that are going to vote for him, and then they must be fascists too, or they support fascism and those things, and that's just not true. That's just not it. I happen to know, and I love a lot of people that voted for the president, and they're not fascists, they're not Nazis, they're not trying to destroy the Constitution and all those things. They just happen to have a different priorities, and they love our country in the same ways that Democrats do as well. So I refuse to do those kinds of a thing, because that kind of extreme kinds of rhetoric makes it easier for those kinds of extreme kinds of actions, even like what happened to poor Charlie Kirk and that. And now why you can't allow people to grieve and now use that an opportunity to criticize or to turn it into something. It's like, that's just basic humanity there. And like, we're forgetting that we need each other. We need each other here. And now I refuse to be a part of it and comparing people to Hitler and those things, because if that's what's required to win, then I refuse to.
There you go. And I just want you to know something right now. Amongst the Democrat Party, amongst the Democrat base and the caucus and the establishment in Washington, D.C., he is hated. They've been trying to drum him out of office and get him to resign in shame by floating all of these scandal stories about him, and it hasn't worked. They're going to primary him the next time he's up for re-election in 2028 because they hate him because of what he just said, because he actually thinks of his political opponents as human beings that deserve some modicum of respect and engagement, that he thinks that it's not okay to mock and ridicule and criticize people as they're mourning the death of their friend or husband, Charlie Kirk, that calling people fascist and Nazis actually is a conversation ender that can only result in radical violence. They hate him for saying that and for pointing that out. That's where they are right now as a political party. I pray every day that they come back off the edge, but I don't see an indication that they will. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Bernie Moreno of Ohio pointed out the latest political violence that's made it to the headlines. Of course, that would be the text messages out of Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we talked a little bit this morning about text messages. I thought that was interesting because I've never seen a witness who wasn't here question, but I thought in the spirit of text messages, we should read some. It talks about a text message that was sent out. It says, if you guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. And then talks about how they want the Jennifer Gilbert's children to die in front of her so she can feel pain. That is the candidate for Attorney General from the state of Virginia. Would you, Senator Peters, condemn that text message, asking their children to die in front of their parents and he can go to their funeral and piss on their graves?
I don't believe I'm a witness here today. Thank you.
Okay,
Senator.
so just want to point out for the record that The bar is so low that you can't condemn somebody wanting political violence.
That's right. Couldn't do it. Oh, I'm not a witness here. Don't ask me questions. I mean, that's a layup. That's a no-brainer. That's a slam dunk. And you don't even have to be Michael Jordan or have any kind of vertical lift to execute the slam dunk. Will you condemn those text messages? Of course I condemn those text messages. It's abhorrent. Thank you, Senator. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to do that. Couldn't even do that. Couldn't even do that. That's where we are right now. It's October 23rd, 2025. We're 6 weeks after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and Democrats cannot bring themselves to condemn those text messages. In fact, we have a Democrat elected official from Texas who went on CNN last night, said, "You punch me in the face, I come at your throat," and made a slashing gesture across her throat. And Aaron Burnett of CNN just nodded along in approval. Isn't this great? That's where we are. But what was I supposed to say here to wrap? Oh, yeah, that's right. We condemn political violence on all sides of the political equation. Both sides are guilty. Both sides are equally guilty. Can't. You're too smart for that. I won't even try.